Greetings from White Top Mountain, Virginia. It's a beautiful day, and I needed to get out for a walk. First hike without Garvey. And yeah, I'm going to go out to Buzzard Rock, hopefully. And along the way, I'm going to tell you the very unlikely story of how I ended up with Garvey, or how he ended up with me. However you choose to look at it. It's a very interesting story, but before I get into that, I do want to say thank you very, very much to everyone who left kind words or who had me in their thoughts and prayers. I definitely felt it all, and I was able to have several periods of calm and peace. So yes, I felt it, it worked, and it helped me get through this situation a lot easier than I would have. And if you didn't leave a message, I won't hold it against you, because I am absolutely the worst at condolences. I never know what to say. I find myself typing out 10 different responses and deleting them all because I think they sound foolish. But anyway, know that if anything in your life turns sour, you'll always be in my prayers, even if you're someone that I've never met. So anyway, let me turn the camera around and you can see what I'm looking at, and we'll get into this story. So the story of Garvey begins on January 31st, 2007, the last day of the year, New Year's Eve. So back then, I was a married man and had all the things that went along with marriage: a wife, a house, a yard, lawnmower, leaf blower, bills, headaches, that sort of thing. Not that they were all bad times, but anyhow, that morning I had decided to cook breakfast, and I made a pan of bacon. And it was a rather cold morning, I remember. And I took the bacon grease, which was in a pie tin, and I set it outside on the back porch to cool off, and forgot completely about it. So anyway, fast forward to later on. It's New Year's Eve, and we're having a gathering in the backyard. A bunch of people are over, celebrating the last day of the year. We've got a campfire going, and the yard was pretty much fenced off with privacy fence, except for one spot where we had bushes. They were, I think, more like a Leland cypress or some kind of thick pine, and it really wasn't necessary to put a fence in that part of the yard because it was kind of a natural privacy fence. So we're having our New Year's Eve gathering. Everyone's sitting around the fire, having a grand old time, and all of a sudden a dog wanders into the yard. It's kind of a blonde golden retriever looking dog, and I had noticed that it had chewed through its leash, or it had a collar, but there was a leash. You could tell that it had been chewed through, and chewed through recently. And the dog came into the yard and went straight for the plate of the bacon grease. Now, I don't know if the dog smelled the bacon grease and chewed through the leash and followed its nose to the plate, but whatever the situation was, the dog was feasting on the bacon grease. So it's a party, and more people show up, and I'm talking, and I got a little bit distracted and went into the house for some reason, walked in the back door into the kitchen, and the dog was inside, and everyone was standing around it. And I said, "Oh, please get that dog out of the house. It'll never leave if you let it inside." And all the girls said, "But it's pregnant." So obviously, what do I have to say about that? absolutely nothing. So, long story short, 5 days later, 7 puppies came out of the mother. And we had tried to find the owner of the mother, who turned out to be a golden retriever. And we put flyers around the neighborhood. And finally a woman had called and said, "Oh yeah, that's our dog. We were just going to take her to the pound because we can't afford the puppies." So we found out that the father was a black standard poodle who lived somewhere in the neighborhood, and the mother, named Maddie, was a golden retriever. So these puppies were born. The owner didn't want them, so we took on the responsibility of these puppies who were born in our home 5 days later, January the 5th, 2008. So at that point, we were responsible for finding homes for them, and we got them all their first shots, and you would not believe how difficult it was to get rid of those puppies. I mean, if you mention puppy, you might as well be saying disease or sickness. Nobody wanted the puppies. It took us 1 or 2 months to find homes for them all. The mother was adopted out because obviously she couldn't go back where she was if she wasn't even being fed when she was pregnant, and she had to chew through her leash to get to our house, to get to that bacon grease. Obviously that wasn't the best home for her. So she got a home somewhere up in Washington, D.C., and the rest of them we adopted out. The first puppy I had chose, well, because I knew I was going to keep one of them. I'd never had a dog before in my life, always wanted to, and pretty much decided I was going to take one of these dogs and it was going to be my hiking partner. Having no idea anything about hiking breeds, I just figured any dog could be a hiking dog. So yeah, the first dog that I chose was actually one of the girls, one of the black girls. Her name ended up being Molly, but after a while she kind of ditched me. She didn't like me anymore, so I kept watching the litter, and Garvey was actually the runt, the last one out, and he was never food aggressive. When it was feeding time, I would have to pull the other siblings off mother and throw Garvey in there so he would be fed. And I thought, you know, that's a really good food quality. That's a really good dog quality, not being food aggressive. So another reason I kind of took to him is all the dogs looked so similar when they were puppies. The only way I could tell them apart was that his pads on his hind legs were pink. And when I was about 5 years old, I had a cat named Pink Paws. So for whatever that's worth, I figured that Garvey was going to be the one. That's how I picked him. And all the others eventually were adopted out and found homes. I don't have the status of any of his siblings, unfortunately. Obviously they're all up in the same age bracket, so I don't know if any of them are still around. But that's pretty much the story of how I ended up with Garvey. And yeah, a lot of you didn't know that. Even some of you who know me really close had never heard that story before. So that's the story of Garvey, and we're still not out to Buzzard Rock yet, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about his first hike, which didn't happen until he was about 7 months old. And I was hiking from Damascus down to Hot Springs, I believe, just a little section hike one year. And he was brought out to me at, what's that place? Hemlock Hollow. Some of you know where that is. It's on the AT just north of Hot Springs. So I met up with him there. He was dropped off and actually allowed to stay, even though they had a no dogs policy. And that would be the first of many times Garvey was allowed to stay where dogs weren't allowed. That would be a reoccurring theme during his life. So anyway, we got on trail at Hemlock Hollow, walked south, and it was a rough little stretch because there's not a lot of water in that stretch, and I didn't have a lot of water with me. And what I did have tasted like bleach because I got it from the tap at Hemlock Hollow. I mean, it was strong, strong bleach. And Garvey's a puppy, so I didn't want to feed him anything, give him bleach water when he was that young. So he got all the good water, and I kind of held off on the bleach water till we finally found some. But that was an adventure. We ran across a yellow jacket's nest right on the trail, and we both kind of jumped up like cartoon characters and ran. And we ended up at Rich Mountain Fire Tower that night. And it was a Friday night. And for those unfamiliar, there's a road that goes up to Rich Mountain Fire Tower. And I generally don't sleep near road access points, and especially not on a Friday night, because there's always the chance of a local party element showing up. And yeah, I just try and avoid it, but it was the end of the day. We were tired. We walked up the tower. There were already some people up there. There were two couples up there. And when they saw Garvey, it was like, oh, look at you. And that also would be a reoccurring theme during his lifetime. He just had that effect on people. But yeah, we got to the fire tower. I wasn't sure what he was going to do, and he just bolted right up the stairs to the top. No questions, no hesitation. And we hung out there. A couple more people came up that night. And just as it was dark and we were sleeping, just about to fall asleep, I heard dirt bike motors coming up the road, and I was like, oh man, getting closer and closer. And yeah, it was kind of late. It was after dark, so I'm kind of wondering, yeah, what are these guys doing? So they came up the fire tower, and they shouted up. They're like, is it okay if we come up? I'm like, sure, I don't care. And Garvey, of course, was barking. He was a puppy, but he had a really deep bark at that point, and he sounded ferocious. And they said, does your dog bite? And I said, only if I ask him to. But they came up, and they came through the door, and he was kind of growling at them, but it was dark. Couldn't really see. And I had my hand on a 10 stake just in case, because you never know what you're going to encounter. These are two pretty big boys, and they were, there was two of them, and they were bigger than I was. So if they had any ill intention, I was kind of cornered up there. But they gave their names, and their names were Jay and Matt, which happened to be the names of my brothers. So, and I told them that. So if they had any plans of taking me out, hopefully that changed their mind. But yeah, they just came up there to check out the sunset, and they were just out on their motorcycles. And they got there a little late for the sunset, but yeah, that was kind of a weird situation. I didn't feel unsafe, but I didn't feel safe either. And yeah, it's better to be cautious in these situations. Better safe than sorry, I always say. And I mentioned to him that I was broke, and my wife was going to meet me the next day in Hot Springs to get me some money. So it's always good to mention that you're broke, even if you have a stack of cash in your pocket. Yeah. Anyway, we're coming out to the meadow here, finally. And there is a big, huge rain cloud storm out to the west. So it may be a bit cloudy, but we should get a few views anyway. Oh yeah. Perfect day to be up here. And thanks for coming along. Thanks for listening to me ramble. It's good to get these things off my chest. Like I said in the last video, it's good for me to keep busy, which I've been doing because of the move. Unpacking, getting rid of things, donating things, selling things. It's a lot of work, but keeping busy is helping me keep my mind off of things. Yeah, look at that. This isn't one of the most beautiful spots on earth. I don't know what is. Oddly enough, I've never camped up here. I think a lot of the reason is because it's kind of overgrown, at least this time of the year. There's a few areas here that looks like they're a little bit matted down. But yeah, there's usually thorny berries protruding from the ground, so yeah, never camped here. I don't know why. Here's a good grassy spot. Down there too. Let's take a look up here. Oh yeah. Put a tent right up here. That's perfect. In fact, that's the old AT. You can actually see where it used to go. It used to come from over there. And go straight up the mountain there to the summit. So we're retro blazing right now. So for all you purists, you can unsubscribe. What a day though. Wait till we get up to the rocks. There's an awesome view up there. Just outstanding. And I'm gonna miss it up here, but I'll be back. I'll definitely be back. White Top Mountain is by far one of my favorite places on earth. Okay. Back on the white blaze. And right here, you'd never know where you're at. You could be in the Whites or the Round Highlands. Very similar terrain. Almost there. There we go. All right. That's Beach Mountain down there. Whew. Let's get to the very top. I'll get a panorama. Whew, it's hot up here, but there's a breeze that feels pretty nice. Plane overhead. That's where the weather's coming in. It's going to storm like crazy. Probably about, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock. Yeah, beautiful day to be up here. I'm not really sure how to end these videos now. I used to have the whistling outro and a video of Garvey. But I think what I might do, give me your thoughts on this, is just post a photo of him, or maybe every now and then a video, just to clip him at the end. And yeah, just a little memory of him at the end of each video. I'll try and put a different picture, different photo, and it might not always be a hiking photo, but it'll be a photo of Garvey, and some of them many of you have probably not seen before. So channel name will stay the same, and I'm going to get back to making regular videos. But yeah, I think I'll put a tribute to him at the end of the videos, and that's the least I can do for my best hiking buddy. Anyway, Thanks for coming along. Next time you see me, I'll be in Georgia. And I hope all of you take care of yourselves. Thank you.